welcome to Malvaelect. So today I'm back after a few days. It's like nearly a month. I was not well mentally, so I was not making any videos. But today I'm back with a new topic, which deals with quantum mechanics and biology. So before going through these things about the quantum biology. Let's start a few bits with the quantum mechanics in itself. So, in basically around the 1900s, there as a means to explain the spectral energy distribution of something known as the black body radiations, or the BBR. Planck introduced an idea of interactions between matter, okay, the matter which we already know, and along with that, we were dealing with the EM waves, okay, or the EM radiations, which were of frequency nu. It was quantized basically. That occurs like if you take it in this way, these EM waves are quantized. This wave property was quantized with the Planck's constant of h mu. Okay. Later, Einstein went on to quantize energy and extended it to photons, a quantum of light, which is a way to study the photoelectric effect. So here, the frequency of light matters. Few timelines fast forward, de Broglie explained every matter to have a particular particle and a wave nature simultaneously with a momentum directly attributed to the Planck's constant. This is also questioned that matter should undergo diffraction. Okay, so the main thing that matter should undergo diffraction because of his de Broglie's assumption, which later on Schrödinger built this observation and his formulation of quantum mechanics through use of the wave dynamics and wave mechanics. Now, in quantum mechanics, let's start with the quantum mechanics in more details. So, the term quantum mechanics is a mathematical framework that identifies an basically isolated system with a quantum state that completely defines the aspects of the system. Okay, it is denoted by this. Okay, basically if you are targeting a system with this thing, we are basically knowing what kind of system it is and what is the quantum state of the system, and a Hilbert space, which is basically this, which defines all the quantum states which is available to the system. Okay, so all the states in this case are defined by the Hilbert space, and the quantum state of that system is represented by this, okay, at a particular time point, say. So the time evolution of this system is described by a state vector, which is essentially this, which obeys the Schrödinger equation, which is this. Yeah. Okay. So here this what is basically the reduced Planck's constant. Okay. And this HT is over here is the Hamiltonian representing the energy levels of the system. So it basically deals with all the energy levels which the system can have. It denotes your excited state, ground state, every kind of energy state is defined by this expression over here which I am talking about. Now, one of the more fascinating aspect is two quantum states. So suppose a system has got two different quantum states. So I am defining the quantum states by this. Okay, so ultimate what is the state or the system describes in quantum sense can be described by using a linear combination of two states. So what I am talking about over here is like this. But this isn't enough. Okay, along with this we also need a complex number which is basically alpha I. Okay, so this alpha I, not alpha I actually, alpha 1, and for this one here alpha 2. So this complex numbers along with the combination of the quantum states can be essential for describing the or the basically system's combination of superposition, considering the Hilbert space equation, which can be written as like this. Yeah, alpha 1. Okay, so here will be an I. So here this one is basically an orthogonal state in superposition weight by a complex number, which is basically over here this one, which is basically alpha 1 over in this case. The probability of finding this particular state I am talking about is expressed by pi, which is equal to the alpha I square mod. Okay, so in this particular equation, quantum world interacts with the classical world. So in these sets of equation I am talking about, the quantum world basically deals with the classical world mechanics. So now, as we are done with the basics of Hamiltonian and Hilbert space regime, we enter the beautiful world of quantum photodynamics and the mechanics of photosystem. So let's get in the depth of the photosystems now. Now, when we're talking about photosystems, or the essential term over here is photosynthesis, we are talking about the essential components which are involved in photosynthesis. The essential components are, first of all, is light. Second is the LHCs, light harvesting complexes. And finally, we are talking about all the reaction centers which are attributed to the essence of the photosynthesis over here. Okay. So in general, what we think is that the light, once it falls on some LHCs, light harvesting complexes, inside the chloroplast it is very much condensed and is packed like this. So basically the light is transferred from one particle to other particle. Okay, and this thing happens in random. But what we find in quantum efficiency, in quantum mechanics, is that this particular light, when it hits the particular system, there is an essential transfer. Okay, so what I am talking about is that let's do it in this way. So photosynthesis apparatus is primarily composes of the LHCs, okay, and not the LHCs over here. It does not mean the Large Hadron Collider. It's, get that straight. So these apparatuses, they show some quantum efficiency which I was talking about. I mean that under low light conditions, if we take a system like this under low light conditions, and also we give no stress to the plant, this means the plant is going healthy. In those cases, what we find is that for almost every photon of light that is absorbed by the system, there is always an electron transferred by the LHCs to the reaction center. That means from here. So for every photon of light absorbed, there is an electron transfer from the LHCs to the reaction center. And this actually happens in something known as the quantum efficiency. Okay. Now, what is quantum efficiency? Let's talk about it in bit simple, because it's always not a physics channel. So if I mean quantum efficiency, I mean that no electron is getting lost. Okay, once the photon hits, there is no loss of electron in the process. In case of any other kind of systems, we find there is always a loss of electron or loss of charges and things. Now, going into depth of this, let's talk about it in this way. Whenever we are talking about the chlorophyll, so the chlorophyll contains a central magnesium ion, we know, and that central magnesium ion is placed in such a way that in its outermost shell there is only one electron which can revolve. Okay, but whenever the photon of light is actually hitting this electron is kicked out. So this electron is kicked out. Okay, but it does not happen so easily. It's not like the electron is just kicked out. There, in this case, in terms of quantum physics, you can say that there is a void left in behind. Okay, so this I'm going to call as a positive void. And when the electron is getting out, we are assuming that it is at a time point over here. So basically this part I am talking about and stressing about is basically known as an exciton. So based on the exciton theory, this exciton basically works like a battery. So whenever we are able to transfer this electron from this part to another, then there is a possible production of not electricity but energy in this case, which is a usable form of energy for the plant's own purposes or the reaction center upliftment. But now let's talk about it in this way. Suppose this electron over here, it is out. Okay, but as you know, in chloroplast the structures are quite condensed and stacked, so we are trying to draw it in this part. So how the electron will know that which path to follow? Suppose this is a reaction center is over here, this is a reaction center. So how the electron will know that in which path to follow? It may get diverged from one point to another, it may get looped out in a particular system. So how it basically derives that in which path it is need to follow? Here comes the quantum mechanics. Okay, now if we take it in this way, that this electron over here, it actually does not go through a singular path. It goes through all the paths which are possible. Okay, so these are the all three paths which are possible for in this particular example I'm talking about. So in that case, if you think it like this way, a particular particle, or suppose you cannot walk at three different paths at once. Okay, it's not feasible, but it's not feasible in the real world. In quantum world, it is feasible for a particle to walk in three paths simultaneously. Okay, because it exists not as only a particle but also as a wave. And now why wave? Now let's get into more depth about it. In quantum mechanics, a particular particle can be found anywhere. It is basically a probability of different kind of outcomes. So suppose over here I am trying to draw something, a graph basically. Let's see how I define it. Suppose I am taking a box over here. I have taken a box, and suppose this box contains an ant. Okay, particular ant it contains. Okay, so this is an ant. Okay, now if I try to assume the box is closed, I do not know what is going inside the box. So if I try to investigate at which point the ant might lie, suppose there was a sugar cube over here. So you have to bear with me because construction is going on in my house. You have to bear with me, so try to focus on my words more. So suppose there's a sugar crystals over here, and here someplace there's different kind of chemicals, and at a particular point there is nothing. Okay, so the chance of the ant to be present beside the sugar is, suppose for example, 80%. Okay, for this kind of chemicals over here, which is not good for the ant, or basically not good for ant, poison basically, is suppose 10%. So 80, 10, 90 is done. The rest 10% possibility it should be present over here. So if you map this in here, the graph comes like this, something like this. Not actually like this also. So in this curve over here, you see that there is a particular probability of getting, very sorry, so over here there is a particular possibility of getting the ant over here. There is a particular possibility of getting ant over here and also over here. Okay, but whenever in the quantum mechanics we are dealing with, whenever this box is opened, we actually get to know where the ant is, and at that point this whole curve becomes a bit changed. Suppose the ant is, very sorry about that, so suppose the ant is present over here. Okay, so when the box is opened, so it changes like this. Okay, so the box is open and you find the ant over somewhere here. So basically it gives you only one peak. Okay, the entire property is changed. So it happens in quantum world that whenever you are having some kind of probability like this, let me just rub it and then draw. So essentially when you open the box, the probability becomes a single peak. Okay, because you get to know where the particular point is, where the particular presence is. Okay, and the rest of the part it is zero. The probability becomes zero over there. Now similar thing if you happen to consider in photosynthesis. So what happened in that, they use something known as the 2D Fourier transform electron spectroscopy, or the 2D FTES. In that they try to notice that how three different laser pulses could actually help, successive laser pulses could actually help in getting some kind of signal about how the LHCs work. Okay, and they found that in these cases a particular beam was found as a receiver in the detector part of the FTES, and what they concluded from there is that there was not a singular path that basically the wave traveled in. Okay, so once the thing was hit, there were so many possible paths like this. Okay, but they followed actually all the paths just like a wave. Okay, and you know, in case of waves there is something known as interferences. Any kind of waves, they show something known as the interference, and in this case also they found the interference. Okay, the interference in this case is also known as the quantum beat. So this quantum beat was like this. This is what they found. And this quantum beat, when they found with the help of lasers, they assumed, okay, that means that whenever the LHCs were actually, they were charged up with the help of the lasers, it didn't only go through one path, but it actually assumed all of these paths at a single point, such that it showed interferences. But obviously this theory of the interference of the quantum beat is very much different in different perspectives. Some say that the amplitude of these quantum beats is not much to define whether it's a particular quantum phenomenon or not, and at some times there is also known as something as quantum shielding in these cases. So many scientists that do not believe that a plant, particularly just a flower plant like this, it can actually so much efficiently can cause quantum shielding, such that there is a presence of wave-like phenomenon happening in the LHCs, or for going into the ultimate place or the destination is the reaction center over here. So these all actually help to define that how the quantum nature of biology can actually work. So this was for the photosynthesis part. So I will be making another video where we're talking about how this kind of things also happen in enzyme catalysis. You can also study beforehand if you want to. Basically, it's known as the quantum tunneling. I'll be talking about the quantum tunneling in proteins, and this quantum tunneling in proteins can actually help the enzymes to actually convert its substrate to its complementary products in this case. So this is how it happens. So basically, whenever the electron over here falls, it basically has so many paths, but it tries to follow all the paths together, thus giving something known as a waveform. And that wave in general shows interference, and those interferences are observed using the 2D ES or 2D Fourier transform electron spectroscopy, as you know, and they found that this thing is happening. So that was only one paper. There are many other papers and things that are coming right now. So if you want to go in depth of this, I was just on the surface, there is much more in depth. So if you want that, I can make a next video on this photosynthesis only, but in more complex and more detailing using different mathematical equations, which in this video I tried to avoid. I tried to incorporate less of these mathematical formulations over here, just the basic ones I did. Thank you. Subscribe to MolBioLect, and please share this video with your teachers, students, whoever you need to, and just subscribe to me. MolBioLect is out. Bye.